All right, Neighborhood Church, take heart. It's Monday of Holy Week, a week that's set apart to get our focus on the one who we're going to celebrate as being alive, that Jesus hasn't just risen from the grave, but that by his Spirit he lives in us. And so we want to offer you a short video each day of this week to help you set apart Christ as Lord as you anticipate celebrating together in our online gathering Easter. And so we're going to go through and kind of walk you through John chapter 14 through 16. It's one of my favorite passages of Scripture, and it feels so timely to prepare our hearts for Easter because Jesus tells us that the reason he spoke to his disciples all these things that are recorded in John 14 to 16 is that they would take heart. And that is exactly what we have to do this year, preparing for Easter, to celebrate Easter in a way none of us have ever celebrated before, living in a time of self-quarantine and social isolation and social distancing. What is it that we need to hear from Jesus in order to make sure that our eyes are fixed upon him and not just consumed with our current circumstance? And so today, I would encourage you to take some time to begin in John chapter 14 and specifically read verses 1 to 14. John 14, 1 to 14. And you need to know that these words of Jesus begin right after a very strange experience that his disciples have just shared with him. They've celebrated the Passover, and that's an annual celebration they would do to remind themselves that their God is a redeemer, that he protected them and brought them out of Egypt, and he has promised another redeemer, better and greater than Moses, who would redeem them. And so that celebration started with a Passover meal, and Jesus has just celebrated that with his disciples. But if you're familiar with the scriptural story, Jesus has flipped the script on his disciples. He, the master, the great one, the promised one, actually serves them. He takes up the towel and washes their feet. And as they're celebrating this meal, he shares that someone's going to betray him. And Judas has actually exited the building. And then when he tells them they're all going to scatter, Peter says, "I'll never scatter." And he says, "Actually, Peter, you're going to deny me 3 times before the rooster crows." And so they have to feel disoriented, much like I'm sure several of us feel disoriented. Well, what is happening? Well, what's going on? And Jesus begins in chapter 14 of verse 1, and this is really the key verse I want us to focus on today. "Do not let your hearts be troubled. You believe in God, believe also in me." And as we prepare and begin this week, Neighborhood Church, that's the challenge and that's the invitation. Believe God. Believe Jesus. There's kind of 2 connotations here. Have confidence. Everything has changed, but not Jesus. He's still on the throne. The grave's still empty. He's alive and well. We can have confidence that he is who he promises to be. And not only just have confidence, but we can receive. We can receive his presence. And that's really what these first 14 verses are about. Though the disciples are no longer going to have Jesus physically present with them, his presence and his work with them and through them and in them is going to continue. And so as you read these verses, look at how he's inviting his followers to have confidence and to receive his presence and his work that continues. And in the midst of this COVID-19 stuff, I want us to realize that what we're going to celebrate Sunday is Jesus is still present, he hasn't left us, and he's still at work, and he still invites us to join him in his work. And to invite him to do his good work in our hearts, to set apart our heart in our hearts himself as Lord. And so what I love about chapter 14 is his disciples have so many questions. They're so confused. How can we know the way, Jesus? And he says, listen, don't worry about the way being out there. You know me. I'm the way. I'm the truth. I'm the life. And Philip says, well, then, Lord, just show us the Father and we'll believe. And Jesus says, listen, I know there's things about the Father that you don't understand, but you know me. Believe me. Trust me. And so, Neighborhood Church, as we begin this week, let's not let our hearts be troubled. Let's believe in God. Let's believe in Jesus, the risen one, and entrust our hearts to him. Jesus ends this section of Scripture in chapter 16, verse 33, with these words, I have told you these things, so that in me you may have peace. In this world you will have trouble, but take heart, Neighborhood Church. I have overcome the world.